Hi, my name is Nick Hatch, and I have the blessing of being the pastor here at Alexandria First Presbyterian Church. And I'm excited to tell you about our capital campaign, which we've entitled Renewing God's House, a Great Heritage, a Great Future. Now let me tell you a little bit about how this came about. This is not something that was dreamed up overnight. We've been working on this for years now. It began a couple of years ago when our session commissioned a special team to do some visioning. We entitled this team the Visioning Team, and they sought to engage elders and deacons and the congregation to think about what vision do we have for our church and where is God leading us in that vision. After almost a year of study and prayer, that team reported back that the vision they had discerned was a vision of vitality and activity. What we learned is that we as a congregation like to do lots of things, from mission to Christian education to fellowship, our worship, all sorts of areas where we take joy in giving the glory to God and being a presence in our community. And so our overall vision moving ahead is one of vitality and activity here at our church and in the community. Within our vision, there were several recommendations, ways to be the church together, programs, missions, ministries. There are also recommendations concerning our facilities. And that's where we are now. We're moving ahead with a capital campaign to make those recommendations a reality. And the thing about this vision, and even the capital campaign, is it's not about facilities or building or money. It's about the ministry that we will be able to do. It's about the lives that will be changed, the growth we will have spiritually. And it is our hope that the changes we make will enable that ministry to happen, that we will be a vital and active church in our community, that we will change lives, and that we will grow disciples. Let me tell you a little bit about each of the recommendations. The first is to renovate the youth space. It's also called the sanctuary basement, the youth room, the shadow room. It has many names, but probably many of us have never been down there. And as you may have seen in some of the clips or pictures, it's not a very welcoming space. The walls have plaster that is falling off. There are holes in some of the walls. The windows are single pane and very old. It is cold and dark. There is mixed match furniture with stains and tears. And what we've really been questioning is, what does that say about our dedication to our youth, that we give them that space to call home?
Hi, my name is John McDowell, and I think I've been going to this church for a full 13 years now. I remember being in my mother's preschool class. It was actually her first class. It's been a big part of my life. It's kind of our own space for the senior highs. It's a place where we could kind of like meet and group together every Sunday that we have Sunday school. It could definitely use some improvements with maybe the temperature, because it is very, very cold down here, and it could definitely use a new paint job. It's a little gloomy, and just anything else that could like be used to brighten up the room would be, I think, great for like our youth group bonding and everything like that. But I think if we did remodel it, it would be almost like an invitation to meet more, and we don't always have to meet outside the church. Sometimes we could just meet inside the church and do simple things like the foosball table we just recently got we could maybe use, or anything else, just like hang out in here and maybe have like one Sunday devoted to that. And I think for even like the younger kids, it would mean that every part of our church is kind of being touched and renovated in a different way, new like breath of life.
What we hope is that through the changes, both structurally and in appearance, we'll make that space more warm and welcoming. It'll be a space that not only our youth can use, but can be used as a meeting space. Other groups might use it. We might engage that space more, knowing that it is a space that is welcoming to others, that will be warm, that won't have a weird smell. Also down in the basement are 2 bathrooms. And as a congregation, we probably avoid these bathrooms. They're not very nice. They are pretty old and dated. The problem is those bathrooms are the closest bathrooms to our sanctuary. And a visitor on a Sunday morning who's looking for a quick bathroom break might go to one of those bathrooms. And we worry about what does that say to a visitor, that those are the bathrooms that we have to provide. They're not accessible, they're not very nice, and they're not very warm or welcoming. So the hope is to renovate those bathrooms so that they will be a welcoming space for a visitor who might wander down there, or maybe a space that we will use as our congregation more often. The hope is that they will either be renovated or that maybe they will be combined to one larger bathroom with some more accessibility and also possibly even a shower so that we can do new ministries like taking part in Family Promise, housing folks who are needing transitional housing.
Hi, my name is Jim Hansen. I've been a member of this church, Alexandria First Presbyterian, since 1986. Our son was baptized in that year. My wife Alice and I have 3 children, 2 girls, Jenny, Mandy, and Jimmy is our third, and they were all raised in the church, went through Sunday school, the youth group. I've been an elder, deacon, member of the choir, just about 3 or 4 of the teams in the church. And in about, I think it was 2013, we had spun off a team from Buildings of Property that was assigned to do something with the room. We had a memorial gift that we were going to use to paint the walls, replace the carpet. And as we're sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, how can you replace the carpet? How can you paint the walls when we have a moisture problem from the outside? The paint's peeling on the walls, the plaster's falling off the walls, and why spend that money when the place needs so much more work? And so in the 4 years since, we've been I've been trying to push to get, try to get funding to do the various basic improvements to the infrastructure and the utilities here to warrant making the place a better place for our senior high youth group. We have, I guess the first thing we tried to talk about was just to replace these large windows here. They're single pane. If you sit in this room in the dead of winter with the heat on, you can just feel the cold air coming right off the windows. We had problems with the moisture over on this corner over here on the outside. The plaster is coming off. We have our organ air supply closet there for our refurbished organ. That cost us $100,000 several years ago. And we're pumping this moist air from down here up to supply the organ upstairs, and it's like, what are we doing to that? And it's like, it just needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. And I can't see spending money to make it look pretty when it's just going to be wasted on the moisture problems and other things that need to be done, like major things. I'm privileged to be in the choir, and the best part about that is when I see all our children coming forward for the children's sermon. And I get a good vantage point. I can see their faces, and I noticed this morning that when they did their prayer, they were just folded their hands, and I just say to myself, these are the future of the church. Is this room, the way it is now, the best that we can do for our children? And they are all our children. They're not your children, they're not my children, they're our children. And I think, I just feel that there's so much that we can do. What would they think using this room in the future? And it's like, there are people in our congregation that don't even like to walk through here, let alone sit here. And I just invite anyone, if they have a spare 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, take the time after church, just come down here and sit and just feel the clamminess, the darkness, and just think to yourself, is this what we want for our children here at Alexandria First? We can do much better.
Some of the other projects include paving our parking lot. The hope is that when it is paved, it will not be such a continual maintenance issue. Many of us have spent work days shoveling the gravel, spreading it out after it's been moved by a plow, digging it out of the grass, leveling our parking lot. It's a continual maintenance issue. And also, if you've been there on a Sunday after rain or snow or ice, it can be very treacherous. The hope is that paving it will make it safer and more accessible, and also when we have lines painted, we will have more spots. I think as a whole, we don't park very close to each other, and so there aren't many spots. With lines, that'll help that problem. Another project is to install an interior elevator in the Fellowship Hall building. The architects and engineers of that plan were insightful enough to include 2 closets that can be used as an elevator shaft. That will give accessibility to that portion of our building, not just for those who are handicapped or disabled, but for anyone who might have trouble with the stairs, whether that's because you're suffering from an injury or just need a little more time to get upstairs.
I'm Clyde Branson, and my wife and I joined this church about 12, 15 years ago. I'm a polio survivor, and from the onset, things worked out pretty well. But then some 40 years later, the muscles, the nerves that were working decided to die. And then I became very handicapped. I have to use a walker all the time. I use an outdoor lift, and it's a wonderful thing. Well, if I get in this, I can get up and down those stairs without worrying about falling every day. I use it every time I come to church. It would solve all of our problems who have a handicap, because some of us have a handicap for just a broken leg for a period of time, whatever. It would allow everybody to move into all areas of the church every day, all day long, every week, etc.
It also makes that building more accessible. Right now, if you wanted to go into Fellowship Hall for, let's say, a fellowship event, for a dinner, for a potluck supper, and you were handicapped, you would have to come in, use the lift, walk down an empty sanctuary that's probably dark, and go all the way into Fellowship Hall. It's not a very welcoming entrance for somebody who already has special needs. So to come right in, use an elevator like we use everywhere else, and come right up, says a lot about what we want to say as a congregation in terms of the welcome we provide, the accessibility we provide. Another recommendation and project for our capital campaign is to do some renovation here in the sanctuary. Not major things, minor things, but will make a big difference. One particular repair that needs to be done is to our stained glass windows. They are beautiful and enhance our worship, but they need some work to help ensure that they will be there for future generations. We have also looked at removing the siding, this paneling, from the lower portion of the sanctuary walls. Some of us may have had this in our basement in the 70s, and while it doesn't look bad, it might look a lot better if it were gone and it were more modern. Cleaner lines. We've talked about putting in new carpets and other minor improvements. The last project that is a part of our capital campaign is to do some renovations to the manse. The manse is a nice home, but it hasn't been lived in many years, and so it needs some work. And so we will do some paint and updates to the bathroom and to the heating system with the hopes that we can rent it out to create an income source. We know in the past that renting out the manse has created some stress on the building and property team, so what we have decided is to explore using a rental leasing agent to take that out of our hands and yet to still create income that is needed to support our budget. It is my hope that you will join us as we live into this vision of vitality and activity, as we continue to be the people of God. We do have a great heritage, and we do have a great future. I hope that you will be as excited as I am about all of these projects and what they will mean for our congregation as we move forward together. What it is that we will say to our youth, what it'll say to the community about our accessibility and welcome, how we will grow together in our faith as we find new ways to live into our lives as disciples. I hope that you will pray for this opportunity, for all that is happening, for all those who are volunteering and giving of their time and leadership, and that you might think, too, about how your family, how you may be involved in this campaign, what you might give and what you might offer. For more information, be sure to check our website so that you can follow along each step of the way in this exciting opportunity. Also, check your mailbox. You will be getting information in the mail as well, including a pledge card, which we will bring forward together on Commitment Sunday. Thank you for joining us on this exciting opportunity. And praise be to God for all of God's blessings in our lives and in our church.